You have been wasting your money on beauty products, but don't worry, I'm here to help. And today we're going to be talking about my number one rule when purchasing beauty products. If you're new here, hello, welcome to my channel. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. I'm glad you're here. Sorry for being MIA last week, but that long weekend messed up my schedule. This week, I'm going to be sharing my number one beauty tip, beauty secret. I do mention it every now and then when I'm recording, but this week will be my dedicated video to this tip that I swear by. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. All of it. I got into makeup in the 2016 era, you could say, but I really started purchasing makeup in 2015. That's when it started. I was over consuming beauty products out of my own volition for many, many years. It was a problem because I was spending above my means, but also I was spending money on things that I truly, genuinely did not use. This tip is going to be basically about makeup palettes. I will be talking about eyeshadow just because that is the number one palette-y thing that most of us own. You own at least an eyeshadow palette. I guess I haven't really said what this not life hack, but for the sake of the title of this video. For this life hack, my number one rule is to never buy any palette, blush, contour, eyeshadow, foundation. Never buy a palette if you don't like minimum 50% of the shades. It has to be 50%. We'll talk about that 50% as we go forward. Across the board, somewhere easy to start with is 50% of a palette. Now, I'm going to be using Sephora Canada for this video. It's just going to be a lot easier than bouncing back and forth between a bunch of retailers. Sephora is a global brand, so depending on your country, you will have either similar palettes that I'm going to be talking about or the exact same palettes. Sephora Canada doesn't really have a lot of indie makeup brands within it. I know the American market has a lot more beauty products than Canada. Hopefully what I have chosen for this video, no matter where we are living, North America, South America, Europe, Asia, we will all have the same product to look at. If you want to pull up the Sephora app or website and kind of play along with the beauty products that I'll be talking about today, I think that would be fun for you to do and kind of start training your brain to follow this 50% rule. I've already gone through and pre-organized my products here just for the sake of time. In total, Sephora Canada has, I believe it was 78. If I double check here, makeup eye palettes. Yeah, we have 78 eyeshadow palettes in the eyeshadow palette section, not in the sale section, just the straight up palette section. So I'm going to start with my no folder and I'm going to talk through why they're no's. Now, another quick disclaimer before we really get into training our brains to do this is obviously my makeup style will be different than your makeup style, or it could be the same. You might have the same opinion on an eyeshadow palette that I have, or you might have the exact opposite opinion that I have. So we're getting that out of the way right now. This is a heavily opinionated video, but that's life. Life is all about opinions. Starting off strong, this is the one palette I pulled from the sales section, so it's not in the standard Sephora Canada eyeshadow palette area. This was only available in the sales section. I do not like half of these shades. I would never wear most of these shades. Anything green, I'm not into. Even though this has blue, and I love blue in here, that is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is only 7 shades that I actually have interest in. I'm not interested in the black and deep brown because I have black and deep brown time and time again. I don't need the yellow, I don't need the green, I don't need the orange. Rough count, 15 of these eyeshadows I am not interested in, but I only want 7. So that's not worth $40.50 for me. All money will be in Canadian, by the way, because I am Canadian. Even though this has colors I love, it has so much more of colors that I don't love, I don't wear, I will never use, or let's say in 5 years, I'll get into green eyeshadow. It'll be quote unquote expired or out of date and the formulas may be completely different than when I use it now. Does that make sense? We're moving on. The next no that I have on this list is something that you kind of have to start to train yourself to look at if you don't do this already, and it's to look at the swatches. Ideally, this means that the brand that you're looking at does a good job doing swatches or uses an accurate swatch. In my opinion, I think that Anastasia puts foundation all over the arm because the person with fair skin has no veins. And if you have fair skin, you know you can see your veins through your skin. So in my opinion, all of these arms have been blanked out and the eyeshadow is placed on top of it. They do look like they actually put the proper eyeshadow on the arm because this orange soda shade is completely different on every skin tone. In this video, I will be looking at the palest arm because that is my complexion. If you are medium or deep, take a look at those arms to play along. So when you actually look at the palette, you might think that, ooh, I really like 50% of these shades. When a palette is laid out in this way, it's very easy to imagine and you don't actually have to count out. I like when things are in two lines, it makes it very easy to see the 50% ratio. But then when you look at the swatches, a lot of the shades look identical, or I already own these shades multiple times over because these are the shades that are in to fill space in a lot of other eyeshadow palettes, especially these like champagne-y, pinky shimmer shades. So in actuality, I don't need any of this. I actually don't need this palette because I have all of this on my own. And that's something that you do really have to pay attention to, is something may look really, really good in the standard photography, but on the arms, it'll look completely different. Now, of course, all depends on if brands Photoshop the swatches onto the arms. Sometimes they do, and sometimes brands will just layer and layer and layer so that the shadow looks like the pan shade and not actually what is in your eyeshadow brush that would be applying to your face. So this is the 12 pan palettes. This is like their revamp of Morphe. I do not purchase Morphe, but we're going to be talking about a lot of brands today that never make an appearance on my channel. So if you're fans of these brands, they're just not my cup of tea, but we're talking about them today for the sake of I need brands to talk about. And I need to not on all the brands at Sephora, Canada. Okay, this is just like the first one. This is just like the purple one, but I don't wear pink and purple. I made that discovery the other day when I talked about all of my eyeshadow palettes. And it was kind of a discovery that I made on my own when I was making that video, being like, oh my God, I actually don't wear pink all that much. So why did I end up buying I was talking about the Patrick Ta duo. That was like a waste of money for me because I have barely touched that thing since purchasing it. But if we just scroll along here and we go to the next slide, again, this is that nude where number one, it pulls way too warm. So for me, neutral and cool interests, this isn't interesting enough for me. And again, I urge you to double check if you already have these champagne-y gold shimmer shades, because you probably do. And you don't need this eyeshadow palette. This one is very interesting to me. I really like it. All of these shades are a major yes in my opinion. The silver, I have a lot of silver eyeshadow, so that would be a duplicate. Another thing that this is like an educational video, right? So pretend I'm a teacher in this video. Something that I have to think of, since I do this for YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, all Claire Cuckoo by the way, is I do this as a hobby job, where right now I'm not being paid to do anything. I have no concurring contracts with any brands. However, if I were to want that, I would need to buy palettes like this where I can do a cool tone palette using strictly one brand. But if I were just a consumer and I'm not looking to start any kind of relationship with a brand, I wouldn't buy this palette because I have all of these matte neutral shades in MAC or C Beauty or Visart already. I already own these shades. But if I were interested as a business side to start a type of relationship with Morphe, that's the only reason I would buy this palette. But I'm not interested in any kind of partnership with Morphe, so that's not gonna happen. And for me, this pink palette, again, is a pink palette. I don't wear pink. I'm not interested. I hope that makes sense if you are like a content creator, because I do have a few videos on my page about being a makeup artist or a content creator. If you are a makeup artist, you're kind of a content creator as well, because as much as we don't want to assume social media is important within that job, it kind of is important for the job nowadays. So big bummer, but a realistic thing that you have to kind of swallow the big dry pill to realize that social media is important in this job now. It doesn't have to be, but when you're starting, it is important. So again, you can get PR boxes when you are a working makeup artist. So again, if you were a working makeup artist and you want to start a relationship with Morphe, that would be the only reason to buy a palette like this. This is a very, very bridal palette. Everything about this screams wedding day to me. So like that would be your only interest, because I can guarantee you, if you're a makeup artist, you have over and over again a rosy pink eyeshadow palette for bridal. So whether or not you would need the Morphe one is dependent on if you want to start a brand relationship with Morphe, asterisk, which takes time to get. This next palette, MAC Cosmetics, you know I own a lot of MAC that I purchase on my own, and I own a lot of MAC that they send me in PR. So I spend money on MAC, but I get MAC sent to me as well. Keep that in mind for my channel. This palette I do really, really like, but something when it comes to MAC is when it comes to their palettes, most of the time, kind of like Hourglass, they already sell the eyeshadows, and there might just be one or two limited edition eyeshadows within a palette. I don't need 700 cozy grays or satin taupes or wedges or les artistes or uninterrupted. You know what I mean? Like buying a palette for 76 Canadian dollars, which you can probably get about half of these shades for $12 in the individual Pro Pan section of MAC, and you just miss out on a few of the limited editions, but they would have replacements for it. You don't need to buy time and time again the exact same, literally the exact same eyeshadow. Just if a brand comes out with maybe one or two limited edition colors within a 12 pan eyeshadow palette, that is a waste of money. And unless you are a baller, and I mean you're living in Dubai, you have a private chauffeur everywhere you go, and you're not living above your means and you can easily live that lifestyle, whatever, $76 I'm sure you spend on one tissue to blow your nose in. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. Don't be silly with your money. This is another one, obviously I don't like it, but again, these shades come and go in the Pro Pan formula, so you would be able to find it. Way too warm in my opinion for my own tastes, so I'm not interested in this at all. At all. This one I pulled. I don't purchase or use Anastasia Beverly Hills anymore. It's out of stock anyways, but this is just, we're pulling it just for the colors that are in this palette. There's a lot of like satiny shimmer shades, and there's only like a couple true matte eyeshadows, which is important to know when you're shopping. For this 50% rule, if you know you don't like a shimmer eyeshadow, but there's more shimmer eyeshadow in a palette than mattes, that right there should be reason enough for you to not purchase an eyeshadow palette. You should know yourself to know you're really not gonna use the glitter shades. You're really not going to use the semi-matte shades, right? Like, you need to be honest with yourself when you're looking at these palettes and the finishes that are within the palette to apply this 50% rule. This is what makes you go from a beauty consumer to just being a savvy shopper and knowing what you're getting and what you like and what you use. Very important. And that's how you can kind of make the jump from just spending your money on anything and everything beauty to spending your money on beauty things that really mean something to you. Okay, I have this one in here. I think I have two Patrick Ta of the Major Dimensions back to back. For me, I already own the colors within this. And I would say, for the most part, this eyeshadow palette is well loved. But if you don't already own a nude eyeshadow palette, then why would you need multiple nude eyeshadows? Especially for a $100 price tag. That is so expensive to do. I also have like a little bit of a vendetta for the Patrick Ta products, just with all of the drama that went down with them. Like, I really don't want to use Patrick Ta Beauty. Why can I not? Again, rosy nude, much like the Morphe. Do you really need the Morphe one and the Patrick Ta? You need to make a choice and you need to decide which one you like. And that's really hard because brands constantly come out with new products, and this is where it gets really complicated within the beauty industry and saving your money. A brand may release a eyeshadow palette that you pretty much already own, so do you need it? Again, a lot of people will say yes because they want the next new thing, but that's where you teeter the line of overspending and consuming just to consume, and you do have to be really picky. And if you compare with this 50% rule with things that you already own, you won't need this one. Now, that being said, this is a luxury formula compared to the Morphe, which is a non-luxury formula. So you may have purchased that Morphe palette and you may not have liked the finish and the formulation of the eyeshadows, to which case purchasing another rosy bridal palette completely warranted and completely fine. Because if you don't like using a beauty product, I'm of the opinion that you shouldn't force yourself to use it just to use it. If you really hate it, and it's not just because you want the newest, hottest item. Another nude palette, slightly warm leaning with some shimmers. You see the trend going on here? So you have to start thinking about what brands you want to support, where you want your money to go to when it comes to being a savvy shopper. We're getting into some of the smaller panned items now. I really like this 002 Smoky Essentials. However, 3 shades I'm not interested in. But this is a 9-pan palette. So to me, I'm basically at 50% of the palette I don't like. I'm not gonna buy a $70 eyeshadow palette and only have 6 shades that I like using. That doesn't make sense to me, and that's where the personalization of this 50% rule starts to come in when we get into these smaller and smaller eyeshadow palettes, because that 50% kind of goes up. If the price is the same and there's less eyeshadow, that 50% might turn into 60%, 70%, 75%, to really get your money's worth out of the shadows that are included in the palette. For example, the Prada Beauty, very popular when it was released, $100. $100. They launched with very like kitschy color combinations. So that knocks down a 4-pan, maybe down to 3, maybe down to 2 shadows that you actually want to wear. In my opinion, if you don't want to wear one of these eyeshadows in this 4-pan palette, you don't want to wear $25 worth of eyeshadow. Very easy math on these palettes. This one here, all of it, 100%. I don't like the color combination on this. but you might not like the beige in the middle because of the skin tone thing, or the fluorescent green. So you literally don't want $50 worth of a $100 palette. Gotta start doing your mental math. Same with this one, the kind of gold and the aqua blue. You may not want $50 worth of a palette. When you think of it in this manner, you'll start to look at beauty products completely differently. This one is a bit more on, like I said, on the first, for the 12 pan, MAC sells a lot of these colors already in single pans, and you can basically DIY this on your own if you don't like 3 of the shades or 2 of the shades. I would recommend, if you don't like 2 of these shades, this palette is not worth purchasing in any of the colorways, and just DIY it yourself within MAC Cosmetics. You can't apply that for every brand though, because not every brand sells individual eyeshadow shades. It's just something that is very easily accessible within MAC. So for this brand within Sephora, I think only Canada has MAC in Sephora. I could be wrong, and Europe might have it. Don't be scared to shop from the brand website just for getting the points. May not be worth it. So I have the, just in general, I have the Quint, mental math, the Quint for Dior, and this is something that I haven't mentioned yet in this video. This is desirable beauty products, but we have to start to taking into account the rating, because the rating on some of these eyeshadow products might be enough for you to not even take a second glance at it. Unfortunately, I have purchased the Denim eyeshadow palette, the most disappointing eyeshadow formula, payoff, everything that I have ever witnessed in my entire life. And this palette was actually the birth of my 50% palette rule within my life. I was so burned by this blue palette that I made a new shopping rule for myself to never make this mistake again. Dior Beauty, if you change the formula of this, I'll give it another shot, another go. But you know what you did with this formula. It is disaster. And this one is really easy to talk through because one, that center Dior shade, kind of where I started to take into consideration skin tone eyeshadows. Whether you're pale, whether you're deep, anywhere in between, waste of space is extremely important when making a decision, because this is way too deep for me to use as any kind of skin tone highlight, and it's too orange to be considered pretty on my skin tone. The next problem that I had with this palette is the shades were identical within themselves. If I zoom in close, you can see the deep navy blue and that weird green aqua were basically the same shade with like a smidgen of difference within the formula. The aqua and the aqua were so similar that you could not build depth within this eyeshadow. I'm sure you can tell by my voice and my mannerisms, I really hated this palette. It was so disappointing. It was so expensive. I wish I had returned it. Honestly, I think I kept it just because it was Dior, and I kind of always had like a weird relationship with Dior because I thought they would notice me, and they never ever did. So you know what? Unveil the mask. I can talk about Dior however I want. Actually, looking at these photos now kills me, because these photos show me that even within the Dior team, they had a hard time coming up with any kind of eyeshadow look for this palette, because all of these eyeshadow looks are the exact same. It's the weird darker blues on the outside with the weird lighter blues in the middle with that weird skin tone in the center of the eye. Every single one with that inner corner highlight. Did I do that with the other eyeshadows? Let me take a look at the purple. Purple does it. Wow, so that's a new discovery. Even Dior is like, you can only do one eyeshadow look with this. Wow, how have I never noticed that before? Look, we're all witnessing in real time that even Dior is like, this is for $92, you get one eyeshadow look. This one, this soft cashmere, okay, that's like a little bit different on all of the eyes, but wow, I've never noticed that before from Dior. Good to know for the future. Not that I'll ever buy one of these quints again because I was so burned by the denim colorway. Let's move on. I am done talking negatively and I'm now going to talk about like yeses, like yes, I would be interested in this if I were a makeup artist. So if you are a makeup artist, you may be interested in what I'm about to talk about. This is the Danessa Myricks Beauty Groundwork. This is the pinky nude, more of a nude palette. There's no reason for me as one skin tone to get this palette. It is not really worth it. In my opinion, I find that the palettes that Danessa comes out with are very makeup artist focused, and that's a good thing. So it's not really necessary for me to get these giant palettes from Danessa, and that comes with kind of experience in wasting my money, more or less. You have to know from past experience of buying these multi-skin tone palettes that a palette like this isn't really meant for me if I'm just one person. Now, there are ways to work around palettes like this, especially within Danessa Myricks, because these palettes can be depotted very easily. You can just take the pans out without any struggle or heat or anything like that, just pop them out. You could go 50-50 on this palette if you had someone to take the other half, or go split it 3 ways with your friends, right? But that would require you and your 3 friends to have different skin tones. Personally, I've never done anything like that, but I have heard of people doing that. Hyper specific scenario though of 1, having enough friends to do it, 2, having enough friends interested in makeup enough to want new products, 3, having enough friends of the skin tones of the interested beauty products. So there's a lot of criteria to hit before going on any kind of buy-in with a group. Piping hot opinion coming at you. I really don't think that Pat McGrath Labs is for the everyday consumer. I really think Pat McGrath Labs is for the makeup artist. I have so many repeat shades, specifically just black eyeshadow. I have enough black eyeshadow for the rest of my life because of the Mothership palettes, and I only own 3. I own 1, 2, and 3. The first 3 palettes I have. So I really don't believe that everyone needs the Pat McGrath Labs Motherships. I think this is a very silly thing to want to collect, especially with the amount of repeated eyeshadow shades that everyone complains about every year. But this palette isn't meant for the standard eyeshadows. This palette is meant for the specialty shades. This is the whole reason to buy the Mothership, and it is very expensive to buy the Mothership for 4 pans of eyeshadow for $186 rounding up. As much as I love my Motherships, I wouldn't say it's a palette to buy if you just need a new eyeshadow palette. This is like specifically for creators, specifically for working makeup artists who do a lot of editorial work. That's what this is for. And the other thing that I always tout is never buy Pat McGrath Labs full price. It's not worth the full price tag. They have many sales throughout the year. They have one of the best Black Friday, Cyber Monday, whatever, that week of pure online. They have one of the best beauty sales for that. If you really want to spend the money for Pat McGrath Labs, just wait for a sale. Just wait for a sale. This is another one. Hot opinion coming at you. Number 1, varies dependently on the type of makeup artist that you are. Because a lot of the makeup artists that I know would never have this in their kit because it's too big. Way too big. It's too many eyeshadows. A 35 pan palette can only do so much. Like there's a lot of repeat shades in palettes like this, but it is still a very trendy thing to have depending on the type of makeup artist you are, especially for the bang for your buck that Morphe really still gravitates around being. Again, this palette is out of stock, so it's kind of a moot point here. But a lot of these shades, if you're just one person, you don't need. But like 1, 2, 3, 4 of these eyeshadows here in this like top quadrant look the exact same in the photography. So I can only imagine on the eyes, they're gonna look even similar. Like in every row you can see there's a lot of repeat shades, and that's just something to really look out for as a makeup artist, of how many of these shades are actually different from one another. Important thing to pay attention to, especially as someone who wears a lot of makeup and has used a lot of formulas in her life. Palettes like this, I've gotten Morphe 35s. I started makeup in 2015. I have gotten my hands on some Morphe in my time. When it comes to eyeshadow though, the way it looks in the pan can often look very different on the eye, if you didn't know. So a lot of these, to me, look like they will be the exact same on the eye. And it's kind of like a word of warning for these eyeshadow palettes, even though it is $41 for 35, a little over $1 per eyeshadow. You still have to really think and do the math on whether or not the eyeshadow will actually make a difference on the eye, because for the most part with these really big palettes, they don't. They look the exact same, or the difference is so subtle that it may as well have been only one eyeshadow and not 4. We're gonna end it on a high note of eyeshadow palettes that I immediately right now today, when I pulled everything up and organized it, were like, yeah, I would buy that if I could. If I could, I would. Absolutely. I would buy this. I'm not buying it right now, but I just want to keep my eye on it. I love blue eyeshadow. Blue eyeshadow is my thing. I will be getting this, whether it's next week, next month, next year. I will be getting this at some point, and I will make a video on it. If you want me to make a video on this blue eyeshadow palette, let me know. I'll keep it in mind for the future. Or if it should just be like a short form 3-minute thing on my shorts tab. Let me share a little bit more of an opinion. The one really nice thing about this Hung Van Gogh Beauty is these palettes are within the color scheme. You don't have major highs and major lows of like trying to fit everything in. It's like, you want a pink palette, these are some pink colors. You want a green palette, here's a green palette. You want a purple palette, this is purple. There are 3, I would say, standard eyeshadow palettes and 4 colored eyeshadow palettes. This one is also really nice, and I have my eye on the Composed Cool eyeshadow palette as well. There's a nude and a more shimmery nude. This one says it's warm and this one says it's nude. Actually, this one says neutral. It's interesting to me, but I wouldn't buy 4 different eyeshadow palettes just because it's a new beauty brand. I would buy one, which as of right now I think would be the blue one for me. If I like it and the formula, I would then go back and buy more. This is a blue palette, so for me, I love all of these shades. Again, if I supported Morphe and I purchased Morphe, these palettes are really good. I really like all of them, honestly. I haven't heard the best reviews online. I've heard they're kind of difficult to use. But if I were looking for a new singular color story eyeshadow palette, I think that these ones are really, really nice. I just do not buy Morphe. I don't think I would ever buy Tom Ford Beauty, but this just falls in line of like, a lot of these is like a yes, yes. This one is a bit too similar, but like a yes, 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 yes. If it was blue, would be better. Where is the one? This one again, this honeymoon one, very bridal to me. If you're a makeup artist and you need some easy kind of bridal colorway, this one is really, really good. And again, it's Tom Ford, so the YSL one as well. I would say I would give this one a chance. It is $92 and that is a hefty price to pay, but I do like the Captivating Dunes colorway. I think it's different enough, it's soft enough that it could produce quite a few really good eyeshadow looks, unlike when we looked at Dior where everything kind of looked the exact same. YSL ones look like they could do quite a number of looks. But yeah, that basically sums up the video for this week. I hope going through these eyeshadow palettes kind of helped train your eye for what to look for. I hope it wasn't too dry of a video. This was, again, a very more education forward kind of video on my channel and not really like a fun, happy, gossipy time like I usually do. But I hope I provided some clarity on how you can start shopping for beauty products to start saving your money or just not spending willy-nilly like you used to. I think that's how I want to leave it off. I think that's a good ending place. If you liked this video, give it a like. If you liked me, subscribe. It's free, so I can pop up in your feed more often. You can also follow me on TikTok and Instagram. Both are Claire Cuckoo as well. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.